Hello everyone, welcome to another lesson. In this section, we are going to talk about function and indentation. Okay, so far in this course, we have worked with the functions, and you used functions in your codes a lot, like you used the print statement and you used the length, and also we worked with integer and range. So in these lessons, I'm going to show you and I will explain what function is. What are functions? Think of functions as reusable recipes for your code, meaning that just like a recipe you can use over and over. Function let you write code once and use it many times. This is so very important. You write functions and you use it in your codes, in your projects multiple times. So this is the goals of function. The simple definition of function is function takes input from the user and return outputs. Okay, so how do we define function? There is 4 steps. The first step is use diff keyword. This is the syntax. You use diff, means definitions. Then you use, in the second step, give it a descriptive name. Choose names that clearly describe what a function does. For example, in this function, my function, okay? In third steps, you use parentheses and colon. And in the fourth steps, you indent the function body. You will write your code inside your functions, and the Python IDE like VS Code indents your programs automatically. This is how you write your functions. Now let me write a code or a function. Okay. As I said, in first step you write diff keyword. Diff means you define functions and then you write the name of your function. For example, let me display name, for example. In third steps, you use parentheses and colon. Once I enter, you can see the Python IDE, like in this case, VS Code indent my code automatically. Now, inside this function, I write some messages to the user. This message is written inside function. Now I want to print another message. This is the second line. This is how can you simply write or define functions in Python. Now if I run my code, you see that nothing happens. Okay, this is very important point regarding functions. If you want to use your functions, you have to call your function. How do you call your function? You simply write the name of your function. And right now, if I want to run my code again, you can see the messages are displayed. Okay, if you don't call your function, it does not or performs anything. Okay, this is how you define your function. As I said, you have to call your functions, and defining a function is like written instruction, but nothing happens until you actually call it. Okay, this is the first function. If I want to write another functions, for example, okay, I want to define a function which adds two number. In this case, as I said, functions takes input. If I add two numbers, in this case, I have to add some parameters inside my function. In this case, a and b. Now, I say please return the sum of a plus b. Okay, this is how I define my function. Right now, I want to call this function. How can I call that? I say, okay, at a b. Now, once two numbers are added, it should be stored inside a variable. For example, sum. After that, I say print sum. Okay, it is not a and b. You have to put number. I made a small mistake here. Okay. I define function. I used div keyword, and then I add a descriptive name, in this case add, and I use some parameters. Like in this case, I want to simply return the sum of a plus b. Now, once I want to use my function, okay, I call that, in this case, add, and I give value, assign value to each parameter. A, for example, 1, B, 2. Once these two numbers are added, it should be stored inside some variable, and finally, I say, okay, please print A plus B. Now let's see, which is equal to 3. Okay, it's very easy. I hope you understand that. Now, to understand it better, I gave you a very demo. Okay. Now I use this website, this platform. In this platform, in the left side, I have robot. Okay. In the right side, I have IDE, meaning that I can write my code here, and I will write some functions. So my functions will move robots. Like okay, I say robots, please do this and please do that. I give, in other words, I give some instruction to the robots. Okay, if I want to click here, you can see lots of functions. How can I know that this is functions? Functions always ends with parentheses. Okay, you have name of functions and you have parentheses. Once you see code like this, and you understand that this is function. Okay, now what I'm trying to do, I give some instruction to this robot. I say, okay, please go to this point, So there are many ways to do that. Okay, which path I'm following? I go first to this path, and then go to this path, and finally this one. Okay, how can I do that? As you can see, we have move Move function means that move functions move the robots from one cell to the another one. As I said, 1, 2, I want to go to step forward, so I need to use to move function. Once I run my code, you can see the robot moved in this place. So right now, what I'm trying to do, I say robot turn left to these directions and then turn right. Okay, so you can see we have another function which is called turn left. Now I want to use that. Turn left. Once it turns left, it has to go forwards, 2 steps forwards. Then I want to use this move forwards as well. Now let me run my code again. You will see. Perfect. Now I'm almost reach my destination. This is my destination, this cell. Now I have to use another function which is called turn left. Let's run my code again. All right. Now if I use one more move function, I will reach my destination. Very nice. You can see how we use Python functions to move robots from one position to the another one. This is the same concept for artificial intelligence, and when you use Google Map, for example, you use from source to destinations. It gives you some directions and instructions. Okay, I want to, okay, I say I will display messages to the user once I arrived at my destination. Okay, I say please display a message to the user. You arrived to the destination. Okay, once again, let me run my code. You can see you arrived to the destination. This is how you use function. Okay, let me give you another example. Right now, as you can see in this dashboard, you don't have any functions. For example, turn around or turn right, we don't have that. So this is okay. Now let's talk about indentation. If you remember, I talked many times about indentation in my previous lessons. I said indentation in Python is not just for looks, it is how Python understands which code belongs together. Okay, we put blocks of code together which perform a specific task in Python. In this case, we use indentation, otherwise we cannot put blocks of code together to perform this. So what is it? Spaces or tabs at the beginning of lines that group code into blocks. Okay, where it is used, functions, loops, if statement, classes, anywhere you need code blocks. This is very important. I will show you why it matters. Python uses indentation instead of curly braces to organize code. Okay, all right, I hope you understood function. Now let's talk about indentation. As we said, indentation in Python, when you put some blocks of code together to perform action. Let me create list which contains some city names. cable, for example, attack غزني, for example, Zabul. Now I want to write a code. As I said, we use indentation, for example, if statements, loops. Okay, right now I want to use it in for loops. I want to ask Python for loops to display each items one by one. Okay, for city and cities. Now you see, once I press enter, you can see it makes some spaces from the beginning of the code. This is called indentation. Now I say please print city. You can see. Now let's see. Now the city name has been displayed or printed. Kabul, Wardak, Ghazni. Now what I'm trying to do, I want to write another print statement. City, I say, of Afghanistan. City of Afghanistan. Okay, what do you think how the result will look like? Let's see. You can see Kabul, Kabul of Afghanistan. I have to make some space. You can see Kabul, Kabul of Afghanistan. Now let me analyze the logic, how this code works. Okay, I have a list. I ask Python for loop to go pick the first item, okay, from this list and put inside this variable. Once you do that, please print, which is city Kabul. Okay, now the first part of the code is done. Now it comes to perform or execute the second part of the code, which is this one. It also displays, for example, Kabul, Kabul of Afghanistan. These two codes are executed one by one. It is finished, then it comes to execute this one, because these two line of codes are indented. They are in the same level, in the same line. That's why these two print statements belongs to this for loop. Now if I want to write another print statement, the process is finished. Okay, now let me run my code again. You can see the for loops display each item and print that, then it print that again. You can see Kabul, Kabul of Afghanistan, then it comes to the second item, it does the same process. Wardak, Wardak of Afghanistan, Ghazni, Ghazni of Afghanistan, Zabul, Zabul of Afghanistan. These two lines of code have been executed inside these loops because it is part of the for loops. How do we know that? Because they are in the same indentation level. Once all of them have been executed, finally this part of the code is executed. You can see the process is finished because this is not at the same indentation level. These codes are located in the same block. This is another block of code. This is how indentation means in Python. Okay. Okay, this is another example. You can check. And summary. We talked about function. We used some steps and process to define function. Then we talked about indentation. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, okay, this is your homework. As I said, you have to write a program for the following path so that the robots reach the destination. The robot is located here. You should create a program so robot goes this direction until it reaches destination. Thank you very much and have a good day. Bye bye.